Right, we should now be live, Matt.
Hey, excellent. Well,
So,
hopefully.
hello. Hello, Matt.
Good evening.
Welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
And it looks like we've already got a few people in the house, which is nice. We've got Rich Mitch complaining about his heft.
Oh dear, poor Rich.
Time to musk up, and Heather and Scotty Bean is here as well. So hello, everyone.
Good evening, all.
And I think we'll start off, we'll break some ice. So let's start off with scent of the night for everyone. So if you're in the comments, let us know what you're wearing. And Matt, what are you wearing tonight?
Well, this evening, because obviously the subject was going to be around my beloved world of perfumery, I thought I'd wear something quite outrageous, but it's too hot. So I've gone for something nice and simple and beautiful, and that's China White from Nasomato, which is absolutely stunning. Have you tried it?
No. Is that the tuberose one you were talking about?
No, that's Narcotic V. I was very tempted to go with it. This is more kind of like a powdery. There's a tiny little hint of iris in the background. It's like just clean and fresh. It smells like an ironed white shirt, but it's got some real heft to it. It stays with you. I mean, it's not a massive projector or anything, but it's perfect for like a sticky evening, because you're just going to smell clean and fresh and lovely.
Yeah, so that sounds, I like that. I'm really into musky florals at the moment. That clean, clean musk. Yeah, so I know I kind of always moan about synthetics, which obviously we're going to get onto later. But synthetics that I love are all the clean musks, ambretaloid, muscanone, but basically all the musks that kind of feel clean and soft and add fluff and all of that. So that sounds quite nice to me.
You would really also like Silver Musk, also from Nasomato. That's a very clean musk with little hints of floral. Sweet Off Darren's Musk you quite like as well. That's a musky rose. And that's it. Really, really simplistic. Two notes, but it works really well. I love musk. I think I'm lucky. It's a note that works really well on me. My skin carries musk very, very well. So most of my collection kind of got quite a lot of musk in them.
Yeah.
So what have you? Sorry, what have you gone with tonight, Claire?
I have gone with, what have I got on? I think I've got 3 on. What have I got on? I've just got 2 on at the moment. I haven't done anything around here at the moment. So today I took delivery of samples from One Way Bridge Perfume. Have you heard of them?
Yes, I've tried about 4, I think. Top Shelf being my favourite.
Yeah. So I filmed a video of all of them, like overall, and then my favourites. I don't want to say that, although the video I accidentally made live when it shouldn't have been, so a few people have seen it. So I'm not going to say what my favourite is for now, but I've got 2 on, and I've got the rose one, which is called A Rose for the Miss.
Yeah.
And that's a really. Did you try that one?
No, I haven't. It's Top Shelf, I think I tried, and there's another one, something about Polly.
Yeah. Stout. Did you try the stout one?
Yeah, you know, Marcus is a massive fan.
Yeah.
And I met up with Marcus, and he had the only bottle of Top Shelf in the UK at the time, and he had a bunch of samples as well. So yeah, we were supposed to do a video together on it, but it just didn't come off because we were in the too busy a pub.
Too busy with pints.
Yeah, well, I was not to drink. But
okay. So I've got the rose one on, which is a really lovely. I don't know what the notes are, but to me it's a really musky rose and violet kind of thing. That's a touch gourmand.
Okay.
And then on this arm is the Typographer's Daughter.
Yeah.
Which is another kind of musky floral. It's not that dissimilar actually from the rose, but I think it's different florals. They seem to have a musk thing going on actually in the line. I noticed quite a lot of them have a really lovely musk.
She uses quite a lot of indigenous flora, doesn't she, from New Zealand? So stuff that we're not going to be that familiar with. I remember looking at the notes on a couple of them and thinking, I don't even know what that is.
That might explain it, because when I'm trying to describe them in the video I did today, I'm constantly going, what is this floral? I can't figure out what this is, you know. So that might explain why I couldn't really pinpoint a lot of the florals in there. but yeah, so I actually really enjoyed the floral ones, the floral musky ones, more than the top shelf, the smoky ones, smoke and stout and smoke. But they're all good.
Oh, they're great. Yeah. You know, when we spoke the other week with regards to people like that are making perfumes like that, it's easy to see why that, you know, this collection is going to do really, really well when it becomes more widespread. I think, you know, she's made some amazing perfumes, and she's a really, really nice person to talk to as well. She's lovely.
Okay, I haven't spoken to her, but yeah, from what I've seen, and a lovely note that I got, which was actually written on a hanky with the order, was yeah, it was really nice. So
you've also always got to trust someone that's obsessed with Peaky Blinders. You know, it's
right. Okay.
Well, that's kind of like I think it is. What's the lead character's name? Shelby, Tommy, not Tommy. The lead. That's who Top Shelf was written or made for.
Oh right, okay.
So that perfume was inspired by that character.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite a neat sort of backstory to something, rather than, you know, memories of childhood and all the lovely usual stuff. She's sort of taken a character from a fictional television show that she really, really likes, and made a perfume that she thought he would wear or he would smell like. So I thought that was a pretty cool touch.
Yeah. I think like we were saying, anything that's got some real inspiration behind it, some meaning behind it, kind of gives the fragrance a bit of life, and it rather than a fragrance that's just been blended for the sake of trying to make something that smells nice. When it's got a little bit more behind it, you can tell when you wear it, can't you? You get a little bit more from it.
It's, you know, you've got the two sort of backstories to that for me are the invention of something, because they, you know, there's a strong connection, and they can make an olfactory simulation of what that thing or person or scenario would smell like. Or you've got the kind of the memory route, you know, and both are equally as important, or as equally as interesting, because there's something very personal about wearing somebody else's perfume, or, you know, or perfume in general, because it's nearly always going to be somebody else's unless you're making your own perfume. And you do get a little bit of an insight into that person. You get a little bit of their soul on your skin, and I think that's one of the reasons why the more creative perfumes are so much more appreciated rather than generics, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why I've kind of really connected with the Teone Reinthal natural perfumes, because if you look at what she does, and when you talk to Teone behind the scenes, there's so much that goes into her perfumes that's from her experience, from her almost like the perfume creating is almost a healing exercise for her, as well as creating something beautiful for other people to get pleasure from, you know. So I think that's why, and a lot of people do seem to connect more with these kind of perfumes.
Oh, definitely, especially those that I think have been in sort of around perfume for a while, or, you know, you kind of done the traditional journey, should I say, and now you need that extra something, you need that extra connection that kind of just brings you in. We like a perfume that's interesting, you know, it obviously it has to appeal to you in terms of smell. But when there's something a little bit more interesting about it, it's a little bit more avant-garde, or maybe a little bit more out there, a little bit more creative. It sings. And on the subject of Tierney, Marcus gave me a bunch of samples a while back that I hadn't really gone through, and in there was Fatima Steam Bath. What a lovely perfume that is!
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. I thought, hang on a minute, because he's got quite crazy handwriting. So I was looking at it and I thought, hang on a minute, I know what this is. So eagerly sprayed it and thought, oh wow, that's superb.
Yeah, that's a pretty sort of a bombastic kind of floralism.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous jasmine, but very much for me, it's kind of like a more of a party scent. Or,
yes, definitely.
The right mood for it. You know, for me, it's like I want to shine. I want to kind of like glow a little bit, so that's the kind of fragrance I would pick for that. But yeah,
I totally agree with that. It's fun in a bottle, isn't it? For sure. There's you know, there's a confidence with that perfume that's just sort of, it is a kind of, I'm going to be the center of attention type thing, which you know, it takes a certain character to pull off, but I certainly enjoy it for sure.
Or a certain mood, you know, not rather than necessarily, you might not want to wear it all the time, but if you're just in that particular mood, then, you know, that's the one. Yeah.
But Sacred Ground, I'm quite obsessing over at the moment. I'm really enjoying that one. That's lovely. It reminds me a little bit of a kind of an upscaled, perfect version of Trumpers Sand. Stop it. It reminds me of like a beefed up, properly done Trumpers Sandalwood. It does the same. It follows the same sort of path, but obviously with a lot more depth and a lot more detail. But the journey's very similar. I'm really impressed with it. I think it's one I'm going to have to start selling the family silver for, to be honest.
Just sell the family, then you don't have to pay for it. You can buy more perfume.
Yeah.
I think
the smell of loneliness.
But it's a beautiful loneliness. I think for me, yeah, Sacred Ground really did blow me away when it came. So obviously it was a blind buy for me. And
oh, was it?
Yeah, I don't wear it all the time because I feel that you need to be in the right frame of mind.
Yeah.
It feels quite spiritual to me. It feels, and I know that Tierney really did put a lot of heart and soul, and you can feel it. And I wouldn't just wear that to to sit in the pub and watch a band. It wouldn't feel right. It's kind of like a fragrance I'd wear, for a walk out in nature, or if I want to be a little bit introspective or a bit grounded. Do you know what I mean? I would pick it for a purpose rather than just to smell good. Although I do sometimes just wear it because it smells so damn good.
Oh, it smells amazing, and also I think it is. I don't know. Sandalwood's always kind of one of those materials that gives you that sort of mood of self-reflection. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it is. I think traditionally it's been quite a spiritual material, and I think it always is going to be, especially if you're thinking along those lines. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
For me, it's just one that I could sit instead of swiping a nude, for example, you could spray that. I mean, there's a lot of sort of attars and ouds that use sandalwood, and it kind of reminds me a lot of that in the way that it makes you feel. Right. It is definitely a perfume though, and it's definitely one that I would. If I got a bottle of it, I don't think it would last that long, which is a shame because it's just calming, isn't it? And I don't know about you, but after a hectic day at work, spraying something nice and just sitting in the evening and letting your day drift by and chilling out, listening to it is one of my favourite things to do. And Sacred Ground would be absolutely awesome for that. I'm eking out my sample because I'm scared to buy a bowl, and I don't want to finish. I had the same with Sean's. Santal Auster, that was another one that did that. I was kind of eking out my sample of that one as well because he gave me the same vibe. And that as a perfume has got some oud in it, lots of sandalwood. Sean's dad worked in a timber mill.
Okay.
So as a kid, he's always associated the smell of wood and chopped wood and cutting wood and shaving wood with his father. So it was very much a kind of a thank you to dad sort of thing, and they're not that dissimilar as perfumes. They both kind of do the same thing. I think Santal Auster is probably a little bit sweeter, but they're kind of very, very similar, and they're very, very good perfumes. Really, really are good.
Yeah. So speaking of, it's Mayer Olfactive is the name, isn't it?
Yeah, hold on. So it's this one is can you see that Tempo Robato.
So I've got that one here that you sent me a sample of.
Yeah, and it's Mayer Olfactive, Maher.
Yeah. So this one I was really impressed with. I was impressed with all of them. Tempo Robato. I was impressed with all of them. There's the Oris Forest did something that I didn't like, and I can't quite pinpoint it. I should have bought some strips soap. Do you mind while I get some strips? I didn't.
No, not at all. I'll be back in the tips. I just want
to
mute this.
Yeah. Oh, we'll leave everyone. We'll leave everyone on their own. Back. So I'm just going to tear up some note paper, and we'll talk about these Mayer Olfactives, which Matt sent to me these samples because, well, A, he thinks or thought I'd really like them, and B, they're a good example of synthetics and naturals mixed, but still smelling really good, like really beautiful naturals in in all of them. So we'll start with Tempo Rubato. And I'll have a look at your comments in a minute. Right, let's quickly get that sprayed on there. Pop that on the floor. And let's have a look.
All right, back in the room.
Right, I've just sprayed Tempo Rubato and explained to everyone that you sent them to me as kind of what they.
I'm gonna have a little spray as well.
Yeah, that you said that they're a good synthetics and naturals combination.
Yeah,
and that you thought I'd really enjoy them. Okay.
I think you would. Yeah.
My light's a bit weird. Okay, so Tempo Rubato, this is the one. So Tempo Rubato is a jazz term. I don't know too much about it.
Well, Tempo Rubato as a term, it means stolen time or lost time in the world of jazz. And the master or the mistress of this was Billie Holiday. So Sean is incredibly into his music. In fact, I think we probably talk more about music than perfume when I chat with him. So this was his homage to that golden era of jazz, and the perfume kind of encapsulates that whole scene, that whole mood, that whole groove, and that was his kind of homage to her. And I think it's fantastic. It's a very potent perfume.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a lot going on, hasn't it? So that you can tell there's a fair dose of iris in here, which I love. It does feel like there's some kind of green. I don't know if it's galbanum or pine or something kind of green. It's kind of like resins and sweetness, like not bubble gum, but if you took bubble gum and then you rounded it out and you softened it and you made it less sweet, almost like maybe that's the iris mixing with something else. I don't know.
What Sean's a master of is rinsing every little bit of everything out of the material. So you've got coffee in here as well, which is a subtle, just a ting of everything to build this crescendo. All of the perfumes that I've tried are that they share one common factor. They all seem to open up with a fanfare. It's like the whole band comes to the front of the stage and everyone gets their moment to like, tonight on the drums we have, and they all have that little thing. So it kind of showcases every material really quickly with such a punchy thing. And then very quickly the perfumes then tend to slow down. And it's almost like the materials then reveal themselves over time. Because everything's you almost get a smokiness from this. It's almost like all the materials are rubbing together to give this smoky vibe. Because there's no birch in it or anything like that. It's just a really clever way of using materials. And again, because he's using really, really top-notch naturals and obviously synthetics, he uses a lot of acetates and things like that to just extend everything. It kind of brings Sure, a lot of people liken cooking to perfumery, and with the best ingredients in the world, the best natural ingredients from whatever you want, you're always going to use salt, you're always going to use sugar, you're always going to use little bits of this and little bits of that to enhance the food. And that's the way that these perfumes are made. They'll take these perfect naturals and just use little bits of synthetics just to amp everything up and to give continuity. And Tempo Rubato is probably my favourite of the three. It's certainly the one up until it got really hot would be the one that I wore the most. And I remember, the first time a sort of big night out after lockdown had to be. There's no doubt about it, because it's a party in the bottle. It's just awesome, and it does get you noticed as well. So you have to be quite light on the trigger.
Right. Okay. I haven't worn it. I've had it on skin, like a spray on skin, but I haven't worn it yet. But I really appreciate it. I think it's really interesting. So many different facets. Now you mentioned coffee, I can get it. But it's kind of like almost like the steamed milk and coffee mixture kind of thing. It's got a frothiness to it. Yeah, it's really, really good. I like it a lot. And I wasn't sure if I would like this one. It had some notes that I love, and I knew that it had some that I'd find challenging, although I can't remember what they were. So, but yeah.
This was the one that I thought would be your possibly least favourite, but in some respects, it's my favourite. But because it's quite so bold and out there, I was slightly concerned. I definitely thought you'd appreciate it, and I definitely thought you'd like it. But I didn't know if it would be one that you were keen to wear, kind of thing, because it is just a little bit, it's not something that I would associate you with. But saying that, you've got a very varied taste. It's not all the same sort of genre that you like. So
it is kind of like it's quite similar in that most of my perfumes tend to be white florals with some resins or vanilla. Quite a lot of them are, so and I do like gourmands, but I'm very fussy that a gourmand must have development. It mustn't smell too sickly sweet. It needs the balance, like you say, in cooking, salt and sugar. It can't just be all sugar. But I can have my head turned by things that are really not typically my taste at all. And I think Sacred Ground is possibly an example of that.
Yeah.
Because it's not a particularly, I guess it's got a sweetness, but it's not particularly sweet or vanillic. I mean, there's some amber or vanilla in there, I think. But yeah, so sometimes you can just have your head turned by things that
I know exactly what you mean there, because it certainly, when I smelt it, it was like, wow. And then you're like, really? Oh, well, yeah, that's good. And I love the fact that it's not sweet. We see so many sweet, creamy sandalwoods to have the conviction to buck that trend and put something out that celebrates the material. It doesn't need sweetness. It doesn't need that. I think sometimes making things sweet is almost like the cheats way of getting it under the door. You're on safer ground with a sweeter perfume, perhaps. It certainly seems to feel that way. So when someone's got the conviction and the faith in their perfume, to think, I don't need to butter this up. I don't need to sweeten this. This is how it should be.
Yeah.
And that shows. It's a beautiful perfume. Really, really lovely to wear too. It's just a shame it's in Australia and it's a nightmare to get there.
It's a long way to go, but I've heard that the customs charges I think have been scrapped or
okay.
So it is slightly better, because it should just be the shipping cost, which is about 25 quid or
it's a long way.
It's a long way to go, isn't it? So
I mean, it's a terrible flight. I've done it 3 or 4 times. It's horrible.
I really want to go to Australia. I feel compelled, actually. So when I was younger, everyone used to go to Australia, and it was almost like the snob in me was like, oh, it's a cliche, I'm not going to Australia. Lovely. But everyone I know that's been raves, even my mum and her other half went for about a month quite a few years ago. Everyone I know that's been raves about it. And recently, me and my boyfriend have been talking about going, and I feel compelled to go now. And I don't know if that's because I've fallen in love with a perfume brand, or if there's more to it.
Just make sure you take big empty bags so you don't have to worry about shipping costs ever again.
Yeah,
but it's a great country, it really is.
I'll buy one of everything that Teone's got.
Yeah, take stock back. But also, if you're there, you're going to have to nip over to New Zealand as well, because it's only 3 hours away. Flying, because my wife's mum and most of her family are in Christchurch in New Zealand, so we have to go there quite a lot.
Nice.
For family commitments, and it's lovely to see them. But that is a real pig of a flight, because it's Australia and then another 3 hours on top.
Wow, yeah.
It's like 27-hour flight, I think. And you're like,
that's tough. Oh, wouldn't want to do that with a mask on.
No way. No, I don't think that's ever going to happen, to be honest. No, definitely not.
Yeah, so I've now sprayed sun soaked on here.
All right.
This was the one I think I was most excited about, and especially after I saw you talk about it. I think you did an Instagram post, then you did a video.
That sun soaked.
Yeah, and it is really nice.
Oh. Gets me every time, that.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Because
So it's the sort of like neroli, but it's not really bitter and green like
no,
neroli can be.
when you look at the note listing and you see that sort of neroli, the orange brigade, the blackcurrant bud, you don't think it's got any right to smell the way it does. Because I've never come across neroli that's creamy before. You know, it's sweet and bitter at the same time. There's little hints of everything. But for me, the star is that blackcurrant bud. Just a few minutes in, and it just slides across the perfume and just changes the direction. It gives that tangy fruitiness. It's amazing. I absolutely love it.
It's really good. It does give me slightly medicinal vibes. I can't remember if I said this to you. It kind of reminds me of a childhood medicine or something, you know, like Germaline maybe, or plasters even. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think it's sometimes for me when it's like one of the Tierney ones we tried. I got a real like eucalyptus sort of mentally hit off that as well. And for me, sometimes I think it's when lots of materials have been crushed together. It's so intense. It comes across as something it's not. If that makes any sense to you, you know, you'll go, yeah, there is a menthol. There's nothing in there that should be giving any kind of menthol vibe, or even a hint of mint or anything like that. But you do get it. There's no denying it's there. And you know, the same when. I think when you crush lots of vegetation together, it can become medicinal. I mean, I think maybe we're programmed to look for that because that's technically medicine for us before, you know, from time ago kind of thing.
I read today saying that I was reading. Have you tried anything from Annette Luther, a German natural perfumer? I haven't yet, but I'm really curious to. Andreas from Service Fragrances speaks really highly of them. And I was talking to him today because I'm sort of debating what I might like to try. And I read her page, you know, of the about us and stuff. And she was saying with naturals, she gave an example that a vanilla, a natural vanilla will have something like 150 plus, what do you call them, molecules, whereas vanillin is one molecule.
Yeah.
So that's why they are so much. They're so much more faceted and changeable on the skin, rather than a single molecule, which obviously is going to be sort of flat and less complex.
I get that. And you know, obviously you'll notice, and it's even more noticeable when you're looking at, say, so 5 different perfumes that use that common note. And then you're wondering why in the dry down they all start smelling the same. Yeah. You know, but that's not just down to the vanilla. That's down to how the perfumers used it. You know, if they, you know, it's very much like music, isn't it? You can play any note in any key and get a different result. You know, you can play the same note on any guitar, but it will sound differently. But technically, it's the same note. If you're surrounding it with other chords, or you're hitting a fret in a different way, or whatever, it's going to change it. And I think, you know, when we're looking at synthetics, there is an easy game to play. You can go formulaic. This works with this, works with this, works with this. That's what we're going to do. Yeah. But everyone's doing that. So everything's going to start smelling the same. You might have some more interesting top notes, and, you know, the mid might funk around a bit. But in the base, you're using the same base. So it's going to start always smelling the same. And that's, for me, where the art of synthetics starts coming into play. Yeah. When people are tweaking it, or they're using a composite of synthetics and naturals to start really tweaking things out and making something much more individual, and making a statement about their perfumery. So, yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, with as you say, with the natural vanilla that's got so many different molecules that could go in so many different directions. Or if you're using a material like Divana that changes on everybody else's skin. I mean, Sean uses it quite a lot. In Treachery, I think, has used it, and there's another Nefertiti, I think, the Divana. It's a green, but he uses a high percentage of it in one of the perfumes. I think it might be Nefertiti actually. Because he wants everybody to have a different experience with it. Right. So he's used a natural that he knows is going to be interchangeable on skin, which I think is the art of being a very clever perfumer. But it can be done with synthetics. You've just got to be careful about, or more cute about what you're combining them with.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I can't remember. I can't remember. Yeah, I think when you said about the dry down all smelling the same, I think that's something that has really bothered me of late, and I've noticed it, and I think it's because certain aromachemicals are so popular, like your ISOE Super and the like, and then the ambroxans and the amber max. I think Sauvage is responsible for a lot of people stuffing ambroxan into everything and just relying on it, filling up the gaps, and then it being the main note in the dry down. And it's, you know, if people love it, fair enough. But even if you love it, surely it's going to get boring when it starts to feel like so many fragrances do it, you know?
It gets incredibly boring. And this, again, is down to the lack of ambition from houses that are looking for surefire hits. As soon as those ambroxan bombs started doing well, you know, where did the aldehydes go? You know, it's like everything is just this big ambroxan bomb because that's what people want. But is that what people want, or is that what people buy because that's all that's available?
Yeah, I think it's what sells, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. You know, when I would hate to guess at how much the development of a new designer perfume costs someone like Dior or Chanel. I mean, H24, the newest one from Hermes, I was really disappointed with it. I liked the smell of it. Performance was shocking, but they were onto something that could have been amazing. You know, they were really, I think, on the cusp of pushing it. You know, I bought it. It's not a bad perfume at all. I think it's very wearable, but it's not good enough, and it could have been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think that's that caution from the big house. Like, they've got the development costs they need to recoup. They've got everything else, the budget, blah 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 blah. And it is a weird world at the moment. Nobody knows what's going to happen. So they've kind of done something quite avant-garde, but really played it safe. So it's like, you know, going to a rock concert where you're not allowed to have the sound up. You know, it doesn't make any sense. They're kind of like, you bought the ticket, but there's no real party, and that kind of really frustrated me. And that's another example, I think, personally. I mean, I don't know for sure, of a house trying to play it too safe, and missing an opportunity to do something quite interesting.
Yeah. I do think most designer fragrances are playing it safe, and it's because they obviously have to sell. I get it. It doesn't. I don't feel frustrated every time I read about a new perfume and the note listing looks amazing. So I think maybe this one will be good. And then you go and you smell it and you're like, it smells a bit like I'm walking through an airport perfume area. You know, it's a fruity floral. Yeah, you know, there's a little bit of caramel in the dry down. Whoa, how exciting! You know. But I get it because they have to sell perfume, and the average consumer, they're not into frags. They're not looking for artistic and unusual and interesting. They want to smell nice. You know, they want a functional fragrance. So, you know, they want maybe a party fragrance that's kind of loud and sweet, or they want an everyday basic fruity floral to wear to the office or whatever. So I get it, they got to sell perfume, but it is boring to me. But I'll keep on smelling and keep on hoping.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Gucci Guilty Absolute, I love that.
Yeah,
it's been discontinued, obviously, because it was nice, you know. But again, it probably didn't. I don't know. It didn't bring money in or whatever. But it's an amazing perfume. It's a really bold release. It's interesting. It's unique. It smells so much better than you would expect from a house. And again, no disrespect to Gucci or whatever. You're the millionaires here, not me. You know, they know what they're doing. But I was just so glad that someone took a punt on something that's really, really interesting. And you know, I'm gutted that it's been discontinued. I've got another bottle hidden away for when my bottle goes, because I think it's a fantastic fragrance, and that's the perfect example of a house doing something a bit bold. And the other one, the new was it Memoirs de Odor or something?
Yeah, that was unusual, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was quite an interesting. I mean, it wasn't for me. I didn't like it, but I applauded them for making it, because it smelled a bit like baking bread to me, a bit too much, and I didn't. I don't know whether it was my skin chemistry that made it not work or not, but again, you know, applause. Let's love to see more of this sort of stuff going on. And I thought H24 was going to be one like that, but it's not.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same about Gucci. I think the absolute, yeah, not my style, far too smoky, far too heavy on the vetiver for me, but absolutely, you know, applause to them for putting out something that's not going to be that popular. It's quite unusual. And then they went with the memoir odeur or whatever it was. Again, I didn't love it myself. I think chamomile is,
yes, that's it.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy the smell of chamomile. To me, it's another very medicinal kind of scent. So it was never going to be a popular fragrance, but it was brilliant because they put it at, I think they put it out as unisex as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
yeah. Do you know what I mean? Everybody wears what they like, and they certainly should do. But it just, I don't know, it wasn't for me.
No,
it really wasn't for me.
Not for me either. But you've got to give it to them for
oh, completely, yeah.
Pushing
I
back.
totally agree with that. It was a brave release.
Yeah, definitely. So let's just say hi to there's lots of people in the chat. Sorry that I've not been talking to you, but Jimbo's here. We've got Rich Mitch, John. I saw Scott and Barry, Kareen, Mel,
Wow.
Andreas. If I've missed anyone, Mike, Heather, lots of people here. So thank you so much for being here. And yeah, we're just having a nice chat, aren't we, Matt? Just
yeah,
about perfume.
Having a natter.
Good old-fashioned natter. But I mean, we said the main sort of subject of conversation, and we're kind of covering it here and there. Is naturals and synthetics?
It's a good subject. I think I'm obviously a massive fan of synthetics, for good reason too. And it's more. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that I dislike natural perfume, because that's not true at all. I really do. I appreciate all perfume if it's good. And I'm more fussed about the end result than the journey to get there. So if it smells fantastic, I'm not really that bothered what it's made up from. And I think, you know, when it comes to synthetic perfumery, I think we are certainly not so much those that are really into perfume, or those that kind of sort of smell more perfume than they should. They understand this, but we are, I think, pre-programmed to sneer or look down on the word synthetic. Certainly from my childhood, it's like, you know, synthetic was always a bad word. You can't have, you know, if it's not cotton, it's something synthetic. It's always something, you know, margarine is synthetic butter. So you're always told, or your mindset is that something that's synthetic is inferior, purely because of the way things have gone. And sometimes it's right, you know, saccharine as opposed to sugar, saccharine being a synthetic sugar. And all these are all negatives, because generally the products are negative. But I think when it comes to perfume, synthetics have been incredibly important. I mean, Chanel No. 5 could arguably be the most famous perfume of them all. There's certainly maybe some others that will claim that title, but it's up there. And that's a perfume from the 20s that's famous for being mainly made up of an overdose of aldehydes. So, you know, synthetics are something that is really, really important to perfume, and something that we know. I mean, you know, Fahrenheit was a massive hit when that came out. It was one of the first to absolutely overdose an ISO super. So these synthetics that are used have been around for a very long time, you know, and I think it's important that we recognise their importance. I don't think that they're a secondary material. I love natural perfumery, and as we've been talking about Sean's work, who's the master of combining them both, that to me is the way forward. I went to speak to Austin's in town, and I don't know if you've all tried Austin's, but I strongly recommend that you get their sample set. I mean, their cashmere and velvet is one of my favourite perfumes. I absolutely adore this one. But whenever you buy a perfume from Austin's, you know, who are a company that are using, I mean, this was by Sophie Labbe. She's used this cashmere and velvet. It's a synthetic compound. It's an extension on cashmere, and that's the the preparation oil from the perfume. So whenever you buy a perfume, you get a small vial like this of the compound that they've used. So every single one carries one, and you can use that to prime, or wear it on its own, or what have you. And Chris, really fascinating guy, knows the industry inside out. He's worked with absolutely everyone. Him and Lauren that set the business up are, you know, her perfume royalty in some respects. They've both been to Grass, they've worked in Grass, you know, they've been everywhere. And they were kind of in a situation when they set the house up that they wanted to showcase these materials that are often hidden. You know, very much like my hero, Gaultieri. He doesn't shy away from using these massive synthetics. He makes them the star. You know, so often these are synthetics that are omitted from note listings. You know, they're hidden away in the back. You know, Guizet, famous for pretty much everything when it comes to molecular perfumery. He's making the molecules a star, same way that Gaultieri does, same way that Sophie Labay's done with Cashmere and Velvet. And these are the people that I'm inspired by, because to me, that's the future of perfume. That's the way it's going to go eventually. We are, well, you know, naturals are going to become so cost prohibitive. You know, we've got all sorts of issues with oud, with sandalwood, you know, and then when does it stop becoming ethical to grow just to make smells and things? And don't get me wrong, this is an industry that I absolutely love, and this is a hobby that I absolutely love. So for me, bedding into the synthetic world was a no-brainer, because I love the smells. I love the fact that I've got no association with them as well. You know, some of my favourite perfumes are perfumes that give me really strong and positive memories from my past, and I love that. But I also like going forward, and I like smelling an unnatural perfume that smells divine, but I've got no olfactory memory of it. I don't know where it's come from, you know, I can't place it. But what it does is it gives you the memories of wearing it then and there, and that's where your memory line starts with it. So I remember going out with my wife the first time I wore Nascimato's Pardon, and it was a fantastic evening. So every time I spray it, I remember that evening. Do you know what I mean? This is where I'm going with these kind of, not necessarily synthetic perfumes, but modern perfumes, which don't have any olfactory memory, but they're using materials that are going to be the key to perfume going forward. And that's kind of where I'm coming from, because, you know, I've said it on reviews where I'm like, oh, synthetic screaming mess or whatever. You know, I'm using the word synthetic as a negative, and certainly lots and lots of people have done that as well. But, you know, being synthetic and smelling synthetic are two different things. You know, lots of cheap synthetic perfumes exist and give the whole synthetic industry a bad name. But you look at some of Guizet work for Ormond Jane. These are beautiful perfumes, you know, that smell of quality and class and sophistication. But there's lots and lots of synthetics in them, and no one's complaining about that. Maybe it's because it's the brand name, or I don't know, or maybe it is purely because the perfumes smell that good. But that's kind of where I'm coming from. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly open a door because I'm getting a bit hot, and put a light on, and I'll be back. Could you sing?
Okay, I'll sing.
You can sing a song, can you, Matt, for everyone?
I'll go and adjust the door. It's interesting though, because I just saw that comment there about synthetics lacking substance, and I think sometimes synthetics do lack substance, but I think that's also the job of the perfumer to make sure that the synthetics that you used are tied up with other materials to give them that boost, to give them that extra oomph that you want. I mean, it's nothing to do with potency, because, you know, you only got to smell someone wearing Baccarat Rouge, you know, 540 to realise how potent that perfume is, or Thomas Kosmala's number 4, Après l'Amour, which is, you know, outstandingly potent, or, you know, my favourite perfume of all time, which is Otto Perese's Berger Musk. This has got more substance in it than most of my collection poured in a barrel and boiled down to a goo. This is an incredibly potent perfume. And it's Jarvenol that's the star player in that one. Lashings and lashings of Jarvenol with some really potent, heavy citrus, a little lavender, and some other bits and bobs. I mean, the thing is, you're always second guessing with Gaultieri, because he never releases notes and you'll never know. But in terms of some synthetic perfumes do lack substance, totally agree with that. But if it's done right and it's used well, you can't say that. you know, you've got something really, really amazing.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I've just become tired of the really common ones.
Yeah.
And the really dry, scratchy ones that they just bother me. They dry my throat out. I just don't enjoy them. Like your ambroxans, your amber max. I completely get that they can make a perfume whole. If you listen to Sarah McCartney talk on the subject, it's fascinating. She's so much to say, and I totally get it. They are almost essential.
Yeah.
In the hands of the average person. They're essential, or even not the average person, but really great perfumers. They need the synthetics to fill the holes, to help make them diffusive, to help make them last, to tame the perfume, because naturals are wildly crazy, aren't they? So
yeah.
Because they've got a life, I guess. Naturals have a life. Whereas synthetics are obviously man-made.
Yeah.
And I really think that, you know, for the most part, my perfume collection is a mixture of naturals and synthetics. But I just don't want to really smell the really obvious scratchy synthetics. I don't mind them being in there in small doses, doing a job, providing scaffolding, or you know, or helping to push it out, or to tame it, or to whatever, to do a little job. But I don't want to actually smell high doses. Myself personally, I just don't want to smell high doses of some of those scratchy, dry, particularly the sort of like the woody kind of.
Yeah.
And the fake oud smells are really, really, the ones I've tried, I really hate them. They make me grab by the tapper. Oh my god, it makes me fucking fume. Oh, it's disgusting. I'm really sorry, because I know there's a few people that really like it. It does something to me. It's disgusting.
It's interesting though, because oud's such an expensive material. And you know, I've spoken to lots of people that are involved in the distillation process of oud, and you know, a friend of mine, Raheel at Oud Base, his family has been distilling oud since the late 60s. So it's, you know, and obviously the world was very different then in terms of oud. You could get Chiara, you could get Kinam, you could get these really, you know, they're practically gone now. These ouds, and they're certainly gone in the wild too. They have to be, you know, sort of harvested, and you know, they're grown, and trees are infected and stuff like that, and it all becomes very, very difficult. But there are a couple of perfumes on the market that I have to mention that I really, really enjoy, and they're quite brazen about their lack of oud in them, despite their title. One's Byredo's Accord Oud, which is such a clever perfume. It smells a little bit like Tom Ford's Oud would, but fruitier, and then it's quite boozy, and then there's some white rum in it, and there's leather, and it's wonderful. But they're saying from a start it's an accord of oud. There's no oud in it. They're not for 1 minute saying there is. And what they've done is they've used lots of other materials to give an accord of oud. And that's just bravo for me. The perfume's amazing. It's lovely. It lasts forever. It's the longest lasting Byredo I've tried. And it's fruity, and it's just enjoyable. It's such a pleasant fragrance. But that's the way forward. And the other one I really, really like that I have to give props to is from Baruti. And that's called No Oud.
Right.
But it smells like oud. It really, really does. It's deep. It's woody. There's a slight little menthol hit to it. Again, more menthol coming up. But if you sprayed it, if someone sprayed it on skin and said, "Smell that. Tell me what it is," you'd say that's oud. You know, without being an expert, knowing the difference between Thai, Hindi, Sri Lankan, or whatever, you'd smell that and go, "God, that's a really natural oud. That smells amazing." And you know, there is a way of doing it. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that you can replace oud. This is a spiritual material that's so entwined with religion and spirituality and so many other things. It's never, you know, it's always going to be coveted, and for the right reason. It's just the most amazing material, but it's becoming more and more scarce. And I think people are being clever to that, rather than just saying that we've got oud in our perfume and we haven't. You know, or you know, there's a tiny amount of oud, and they've used loads of synthetics to try and make something that smells a bit like oud, or just calling it an oud when it's not. You know, these are all things that are happening. I really would take my hat off to Byredo and to Baruti for doing what they've done there by making these fantastic smelling perfumes without actually having to sacrifice any of that special material just to make a perfume.
Yeah. And I think that there's a few people in the comments are talking about how certain naturals are becoming extinct, and there is a sustainability and there's an environmental element around naturals, which is obviously a plus for synthetics, because someone in the comments said that there's vanilla in Madagascar is pretty much extinct. So there is absolutely an argument for synthetics to replace naturals when it comes to, are we harming the environment or animals to get those things? Are we able to sustain it? And yeah, so that is definitely a thumbs up to the synthetic side of things. But I can only speak to what I enjoy and what I like, and and I don't think all natural perfumery is good, because it has a reputation of all naturals being it can feel kind of chunky. I know Lush, for example, use a lot of naturals. In fact, they used to have a bit of a policy on they didn't like the perfumer to use synthetics, or they would restrict the perfumer to only a very, very small amount of synthetics. But the thing is, some of those Lush perfumes are quite chunky, and they do feel like someone sat with a load of essential oils and just chucked them over. There's some really good ones, but some of them feel like someone's just sat there with a load of essential oils and chucked something together, and they don't feel that sophisticated. And there are obviously people say that natural perfumes generally don't last. I've only really tried a few, and obviously Teone Reinthal, I think she has an amazing talent and a feel for the materials that she uses. So she's probably a what's the word? A thing to the rule.
Yes, I know what you mean. But when I tried saffron, I mean, as I said to you before you sent it, I like saffron, but I don't like it when it's too intense. And of course, that's probably the most intense saffron you're going to get.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. It was amazing, and it's such a big perfume. The fact that that's an all natural perfume is quite astounding, because that's like that's just potent as it really is. I've got one from the Tierney called Musica Oud, which is saffron and civet and oak moss, sandalwood, all the usual suspects, and lots of oud. But the saffron in that is quite similar to saffron. They open up very similarly. But then obviously the Nishani goes a bit fecal and a bit animalic and a bit sort of a bit angry kind of thing. Whereas saffron is just this beautiful palace in a desert. It was such another one that's on the list. Literally, I'm eyeing up the family silver as we talk. So
would you say, do you prefer saffron or sacred ground?
Well, I think I'd have to have them both, to be honest with you. And that's because if you're going to order from Australia, you would need to order them both, wouldn't you? There's no point buying them in separate ones, because you're looking at 50 quid in shipping there for two jots. So that's why the silver's looking quite vulnerable at the moment. But if I had to pick one, I'd be really stuffed. If I had to pick one, I'd probably pick saffron, because sacred ground is so lovely, but it is so similar. I could buy Santal Austere from Sean's from Mayor Olfactive and buy saffron from Tierney. Yeah. And that would be a fair compromise. But if I suddenly decided I'm quids in, I'm going to buy them both, I would definitely buy those too. It's a difficult one, because they're expensive perfumes, but they're totally, I'm not bitching about costs, because they're totally worth it. You can see where the money goes. It's not, it's not a cheap perfume in an expensive bottle that's been marked up to the zenith, which is something that we're quite familiar with in the perfume industry. Yes. You can see where your money goes with these.
Yeah, totally. Another thing that was on that Annette Nufa page that I was reading, she was explaining the difference in cost. So she said, for example, you can buy vanillin at something like £15 a kilo. Wow. And you could buy vanilla for like 15,000 or something. The cost variable was like off the scale, the difference. And obviously there are, as it's been said in the comments as well, there are expensive synthetics. Just because it's synthetic doesn't mean it was a cheap ingredient.
I think also the development of the synthetics is a real cost as well. You know, if you were trying to make a new molecular compound or something like that, can you imagine how much that costs? I mean, once a formula is made and then you can buy it in whatever bulk you need, obviously that changes. But if you're, you know, if you're at the science end of it, that's sure. I mean, I don't know, but surely it's got to incur some kind of big spend. You know. Yeah. But it's interesting. I mean, I'm a big fan of Tierney. I think there's no secret. The Also Parisi collection are my favourite. I've got them all. I've had multiple bottles of most of them. But again, this unabashed use of synthetics and celebrating them, and then being a bit coy at the end by not telling you what's in them. I love that as well.
No, I like that. I really like that, because I think it's a good challenge it's a good challenge for anyone's nose to have to try and figure out what they're smelling, and particularly when you do have reviewers out there who just read the note listing and tell you that they get it in the exact order of the pyramid. Yeah, and so if a reviewer wants to review a fragrance with no note listing, and they actually then have to start really using their nose.
Yeah, I mean, I keep meaning to film this, but I haven't done it yet. And it's a Q&A with Fantomas, which is a perfume I adore. This was, I think this is also one of the most misunderstood releases from the most misunderstood perfumer of the lot. And I've spent a lot I think I did a video when I saw that Fantomas was coming out. I hadn't smelt it or anything at that point. I'm just speculating on what it was going to be like. And then I reached out to Nasomato, and they sent me a sample of it before it was just as it was being released. So it was just very much a first impressions of it. And then I waited till everyone had kind of got their videos out, and I thought, right, I'll settle back. I don't want to get involved on this one. But it's a fascinating perfume. I was going to wear it tonight, but it's just too warm. You know, it's absolutely too warm for it. But it's a stunning perfume, and again, it's not something that I think you could attain that kind of weirdness or that kind of interest with naturals. You know, it's an incredibly airy, smoky, fruity, dark, light. Like a lot of Gaultieris, your skin temperature seems to really affect how it performs. So it's a really clever one, and for me, it's kind of like, it's not my favourite of Gaultieris by any means, but it's certainly, I love it for its creativity, for its it's mad, it's barking, you know, it's and it's brilliant. Like, have you seen The Nose, Searching for Blamage?
Say that again, sorry.
Have you seen the Gaultieris documentary, The Nose, Searching for Blamage? Such a worthwhile read, because it goes back to, as we were mentioning Chanel No. 5 earlier, I think it was Ernest Beau, the perfumer. It was his assistant, so legend says, that overdosed the aldehydes. Yeah. So blamage itself in German, I'm led to believe, or certainly Gaultieri states, it means mistake. So the perfume itself is a celebration of the mistakes in perfumery that have led to some of the world's most famous and most loved perfumes. And then the documentary itself is about his kind of quest to make the perfect mistake, as it were. And it's a fascinating. I mean, the guy's charismatic, he's eccentric, he's just brilliant entertainment. But I bought Blamage on the back of the documentary, and I absolutely love it. It's one that my wife actually enjoys as well. It's quite a musky, fruity, leathery, woodsy one, but it's space age. It's completely nuts. You know, it's like all of them. Most of the Nasomatos are bonkers, and that's what I love. You're never going to bump into anybody that smells the same as you. You're not worrying about tons of ambroxan or that ambroxan ethyl maltol combination that smashing your teeth in. A lot of the perfumes are very strong, don't get me wrong, but they're different. They're really, really different. They go about it in a different way. They attack things from a different angle. The top notes are at the bottom and vice versa, because the very few of them have got that very light citrus start. They're all, straight in. Something mad's happening straight away. And then where do you go next? And every time you wear it, and most of them, you kind of, I've had some of them are sort of 3-4 years, and you're still like, I'm not quite sure if I know this inside out yet. And that to me is fantastic. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I think that's where we differ. So I think I like things to be quite delicate and subtle, more so.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be wowed and appreciate it on a scent strip and go, wow, that's crazy. But to actually wear it I think my taste veers more in the subtle realms, you know, rather than anything that's too crazy. You know, things that kind of punch you in the face with everything at once, you know. I think that's just, it's just not me. It's not my
live
taste.
a little.
Yeah, I like, so, you know, yeah, I like things to you know, to build up. They can build up to a more of a crescendo, or yeah, I guess I probably lean a bit more classic, I guess.
Yeah.
Although I never really thought I'd say that, but I think I probably do a little bit. I really like those, you know, like the French houses that kind of revive, like Violet, Maison Violet. I don't know if you've tried anything.
No, Violet, to be honest with you, it's a no. I don't get on with that well. I struggle with it more than anything. So as soon as I see the name Violet in a house or a perfume, I generally give it a big swerve.
There's only one that I think has got a noticeable violet note. I think that it's just that the brand was called that back in the day.
Yeah, that'd be enough for me.
But
I think I overdosed on Fahrenheit in sort of like the early 90s, and I can't
do it. Yeah, but yeah, I do quite enjoy Violet. So, but Violet Leaf, actually, I love Violet Leaf in Fahrenheit. I don't always like it in if it's really strong, because it's got that kind of like green and ozonic nuance to it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So don't always love Violet Leaf if it's too strong, but I do like I actually love the synthetics that make Violet. So I love the ionones, ironone A, ironone B. I absolutely love those synthetics.
There was one from the now sadly defunct, is it SJ Parfums?
SP Parfums.
SP. They did I think it was a pink violet, which I thought was quite a sweet, cutesy perfume. It was quite nice. I enjoyed that one.
I'm trying to remember the violet one. I don't remember a violet one from them.
Was it them? It was like, or maybe I'm thinking of pink patchouli. I'm not sure, but it was
pink patchouli. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I'm sure it was a pink violet, because I'm sure one of them. I sampled a load, and one of them had a bit of violet in it, which I thought was okay. It was quite nice, but then I sampled pink patchouli at the same time, so that's probably where I'm. Someone sent me a bunch of them, and they were really good actually. I don't know why I didn't end up with any. I really enjoyed. There's a few of them I thought were really good.
Yeah,
I've got perfumes.
Yeah, he used to send me and Dan. He used to send us everything. Every time he released a new one, he'd send it to us, which was lovely of him. So I've got quite a lot of them. So if there's anything you want to revisit, I've probably got it.
I've got some notes actually. Yeah, I'll hit you up on that, because there's a couple that I thought were really, really just clever. You know, nice to wear, but really clever. I like the way they were built up and stuff. It was they were nice perfumes. So how did you get on with the eccentric molecules?
Well, I used to have Molecule 1 years ago, and that's still my most complimented perfume ever. And I enjoyed it, but I think I've just had enough of ISOE Super now. So I have now parted with it, because I'm just it's almost, it's not that I don't think it smells good. It's just I just want more. You know, I want more. I want some beautiful materials in my perfume. But yeah, that was my absolutely hands down. I got the most compliments and real strong. You know, a woman tracked me down at work. I got called in, and then we had to have a meeting before we went off to deal with an incident. And there was a lady there. I didn't really know her. And then she said in the meeting, "Someone smells good." And I thought, oh yeah, it's probably me, but I didn't say anything. And then later on, she came to see me to tell me something at my desk, because I was sat away from everyone else. And she came to see me. She said, "It's you. It's you. What are you wearing?" And then days later, she rings me up and at my desk and said, "What was that perfume you're wearing? I want to buy it." And she was on the phone to me on the internet and ordered it.
Because I love eccentric 04. This is, well, that's a 100ml bottle there, and I've not had it a year yet. That's grapefruit. I know, grapefruit and Javanol It's just it works so well. It's beautiful, and
Is Java a sandalwood one?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's this really sharp, tart grapefruit with this sort of sandalwood that goes through quite a few stages. It's interesting how it's managed to tweak so much out of a synthetic compound, because it's creamy at the base, but it's quite, it's sort of sharp or woody at the top, sort of thing, as it goes on. It's beautiful. I absolutely adore it. So I was in Kingston. I think it's Bentall's. They've got a shopping centre there, and I picked up the 3 samples of the 3 new ones. The eccentric molecules 01 there's one with patchouli, one with iris, and one with orange, and they're all right actually. I don't know if I'll actually want a full bottle of them, but I struggle a bit with ISOE Super as a single note, so I lose it really quickly. Okay. If it's tied up with something else, it kind of lingers around a bit. But unfortunately, with the 3 of them, I think the orange one, which is the one I like the least, that was the one that performed the best on me, that I was kind of with all the time. The iris is beautiful. It's a really lovely iris. But I lost it quite quickly. And the patchouli is really nice as well. It's lovely. But again, as soon as the patchouli started to fade, I can see it being one that people would smell on you and love around you, but I lost it really quickly, which was really frustrating. But I think it's a nice idea to revisit that one, and kind of offer a twist to it, and maybe more flankers for the rest of them would be a good idea.
On that subject, I'm pretty sure I already know the answer, but do you wear fragrance purely for you? Do you wear it for you and considering people around you, or a combination? So if you can't smell it anymore, but damn well other people can smell it, will you still be happy to wear it? No, me too, yeah.
No, I've got quite a weird job, and I deal with, I meet some interesting characters in my day, in my real job, and often the environments I work in are a bit whiffy. So perfume's a little safety bubble around me.
Yeah.
And if I can't smell it, I can't see the point. If to be honest with you, it's lovely having people coming up and fawning over it, and and getting compliments. It's fantastic. If I don't think anybody that's really into perfume fishes for them, but when you get them, they're nice. It's always. I mean, the amount of times I've had people, especially at work, where I've ended up writing down the name of my channel, or writing perfume names down for people and stuff like that. And I love that, because it opens up dialogue, and sometimes my work's quite hostile. So when it's a nice environment, and you're chatting about something as kind of, in some respects, irrelevant as perfume to the scenario you're in, it just takes you away from it all. But being able to smell it on you is incredibly important. If you were wearing something and everyone's gushing over it, but you can't smell it yourself, it's kind of a bit like, well, I don't know, can't really see the point in that one myself.
Yeah.
My wife she loves the perfume too. She kind of goes a little nose blind to certain perfumes. She likes CK number 4, that Thomas Cosmala's take on Baccarat Rouge 540. But again, it's one that she loses a little bit. So she'll walk in and it's like a fog of it, because it's such a strong perfume. But because it's that ethyl maltol ambroxan combination, I think a lot of people go nose blind to it. And a lot of people aren't aware just how strong it is sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think with eccentric 01, she liked the smell of it but lost it on herself, so that was a bit pointless, really. Because Lynn, my wife, she loves florals. She loves tuberose especially. Yeah. So she'll always veer towards tuberose. And bizarrely, as a byproduct of that, I've become a mad tuberose fan. A few years ago, I wouldn't have been that bothered by it, but now I really like it, and it's a lovely note.
Try. I mentioned earlier Maison Violet, but their new one, Compliment, is a really lovely tuberose. It's not too punchy. It's a mixture with a few different white florals, and then in the far dry down, you get a little bit of a sweet resin, but it's mostly about the florals.
Okay.
But it's really beautiful. It feels very natural. And and you can get samples. I think they used to do a deal where the samples you got just for the price of shipping or something. So I would highly recommend. I know you're not into violet, but really there's only one that's got actual violet smell, which is the Poupre d'Automne. But
Well, I like the sound of the tuberose one. What was it called again, Claire? Sorry.
Maison Violet Compliment. That's
Compliment.
the one with tuberose in it. But you may as well sample all of them if they've still got that deal going on.
Yeah, I'll have a look.
They're very affordable to sample regardless. And yeah, you might like the Sketch. Can't remember the others, but they're all good. They're really, really nicely made perfumes. They're mixed media, but they have a kind of a classical feel, but they're not vintage, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like doffing its cap to, but I'm assuming there's still a little bit of a modern feel to it.
Yeah, but yeah, the missus might enjoy a compliment. It's because I'm not really. Sometimes if it's too floral, it can lose me, and this verges on that. But I'm coming around to tuberose now, because tuberose to me has always been that floral that feels like a whole massive bunch of flowers. It's like punching you in the face.
Totally.
I've always sort of described it as tits and arse. You know, it's the low cut top and the mini skirt at the same time.
Yeah, it's a double whammy.
Yeah, but I am coming around to it, and they handle it in this particular perfume. They handle it lovely. So it's a tuberose I can wear, and it's mixed with other florals, and it's just really, really nice.
Because we're big fans of Byredo's Flower Head, which is tuberose and jasmine, but it's more tuberose, and it's big. It's like, you know, that Michael Kors. I forgot which one. It's just a tuberose, sweet bubblegum tuberose bombshell. That's lovely. Obviously, Narcotic V. And I've got Min New York Barrel, which is a completely different thing. It's this peaty, boozy, woody tuberose, and you're like, what's that doing there? But it works so well. It's this real kind of like pirate on the sea with a big flower. It's lovely. It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Bit mad, but good.
But yeah. Right. Where were we? What were we talking about?
Oh, well, I was gushing about Gaultieri, which is the norm.
All right. Well, let's move on from that. Actually, I mean, I can't comment because I don't think I've tried anything. So, you know, I could be.
You've never tried any Nasamato?
I might have done in shops, but not to any. I probably got put off by the top notes. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I would like to try. I would like to try that Narcotic V that you were telling me about.
Yeah, that is a tuberose bomb.
Yeah.
You'll like that. We can sort that out. And I think you'd like China White, and I think you certainly like Silver Musk, because these are very clean musks. I met with Michael Bodie a little while ago to go through the Nosegasm. You know, he's got that 75 perfume collection all devoted to rose, and he said something like, because he calls the molecular perfume, he calls them nudes,
right?
And that makes perfect sense, because it's that you feel like you've got nothing on. So you know, that's a great term that, you know, I've taken from Michael, and I will use. But I just love the idea that these sort of molecular style perfumes can be classed as nudes, because you know, it doesn't feel like there's anything there, but there is something there, and you are aware of something slightly there, but it's more your skin.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a neat term.
Yeah. I was going to ask you actually, Matt. I'm just curious how it, because so at the moment I'm supposed to be in No by July, right? But I might have had an accident today. So, had a little whoops moment, and I've blind bought a perfume from America, and it's called Annabelle's Birthday Cake. And I was gonna try and hold out until the end of July, but I found out there was only 4 left, and it's limited edition. And it sounded amazing. So I have, this is my confession time to everyone. I have broken my No by July, and I am very sorry. Oops. But I was going to ask you, Matt, how do you go about your purchasing? Do you have, are you trying to build a collection? Are you trying to curate a specific wardrobe that you love? Do you like to have things for reference? How do you go about it? Do you have any boundaries that you set yourself, or rules?
That's a brilliant question, Claire. I follow the perfumer, not the house, generally.
Yeah.
So I I am building a collection. I particularly would like to end up with everything Thierry's done. I'm pretty much there. There's, I think, 6 perfumes left, and then I've got everything.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm obsessing about. I don't really have any direction. I've slowed down massively now. I'm not interested in my collect. I've got to go the other way now and start losing bottles, to be honest. It's, I'm a hoarder by nature.
Right.
And I've got too much. And there's lots of perfumes that I love, but I don't really love that much. If someone gave it to me and said, "What do you think of this?" I say, "I love it. I love it. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. I've got it." When was the last time you wore it? Oh, I don't know. Pre-pandemic, and then that's not healthy, is it? To have these perfumes that you love, but you don't wear. So I need to ship. It takes a lot now for me to want to go and buy a new perfume. I go out and sniff all the time, and that's why I think the Tierney ones have taken a hold, because it's the first time in quite a long time that I've tried something new and thought, "Oh God, I love that. I really wear that." Yeah. Whereas I have to be honest, and quite often, I spend the day in Javoy or wherever we are, and you're like, "Oh, that's really nice. That's really nice. I could wear that. Would I wear that?" And it's starting. The brakes are probably about 3 years too late, but the brakes are now being applied. I'd love to own all of Sean's, because they're all fantastic. I've been lucky enough to sample most of them. I think a couple of one from Visitor Perfumes. I got sent 3 to try, and there's one that I'd absolutely love. No coincidence, it's got tuberose in it. Yeah. So that I would really like. But at the moment, I'm in a good place when it comes to buying, because I'm not that fussed at the moment. There's nothing apart from the Tierney ones that you sent over, and a couple of others out there. I haven't got a long list anymore. There's certain houses which I won't mention that I won't go near. I think they're just overpriced. I think it's all marketing and shiny bottles and things like that. I'm not interested in that. I can't be arsed with it. I don't want to. I think also there's a budget as well. I think sometimes you look and think, "Oh, come on, why are you charging that for that? That's not worth that. That's marketing. That's not justifiable."
There's a lot of bullshit out there, isn't there?
Yeah, completely. These artisan houses that are churning out thousands of bottles. There's nothing. This is business. This is the high end. This is like selling lots of high end hi-fis or whatever like that. That's what this is. This is all about prestige. This isn't about perfume anymore. So I'm not interested in any of that. And if any sees my collection, it will be quite obvious who I'm talking about by the emissions. If you follow my Instagram, there's certain houses never appear because I'm not interested. There's houses I'd like to explore. I'd like to try more from Ex Nihilo. I think they've got some fantastic perfumes. I'd like to try more. I don't know. I'm not that. I like 30ml bottles. I'm a massive fan. Yeah. Any house that's churning out 30ml bottles would be good. I'd probably like to explore more from Parfums de Nicolai. I have 3 of Patricia's, and I could easily have more. But that's purely because I haven't smelt them all. I think if I smelt some more, I could probably get it really into those. But yeah, generally, I'm in a good place at the moment. And for your No by July, I know you've what you need to do is then just bolt on 4 days into August that you're not allowed to buy on, and then you're golden.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think, to be honest, to be fair to myself, this was a unique situation because there was only 4 left and it's limited edition, and I really didn't want to miss out. So I'm letting myself off, and I'm still going to stick to it, for the rest of the month. And I was planning on extending it anyway. Like I did the same last year. I ended up extending it right up into September. And I find that putting the brakes on for a little bit is a really lovely moment in time to really appreciate what you have, to take your time with the samples that you've got, and rediscover things and realize that perhaps the sample, when you retest a sample, you fall in love with that second or third time that you retest a sample. And it's nice to just have a moment to I know basically what I've been doing is planning what I'm buying from Teone next, actually.
Yeah.
So I've been drooling over her website. I've been spending hours reading reviews on the Teone fragrances, and it's been honestly beautiful. Like it's just so nice to know that you're not going to pull the trigger right now, but just to do your research, take your time, and because actually you can't buy from Tierney at the moment. She's got her website on hold, and she's got a new website coming mid-August.
Oh, okay.
She's put a pause on her website for now, so you can't buy, which is probably good. You know, it saves you selling your granny or whatever right now. You know, it's giving her an extra month.
Yeah, she gets a reprieve.
But do you sell? Do you give away? Do you swap?
I give away. I don't sell. It seems to be a lot more hassle than it's worth, to be honest. I'm not. It's bad enough sending out samples, to be honest with you. You know, and especially my local post office since the pandemic it's a law unto itself. It opens when it wants, it closes when it wants, and there's no way of predicting it. And the only other one, I live near a very busy high road, and the post office there is like in a WH Smith's, and it feeds or services about 1 million people. So if you ever have to go in there, it's a day's job.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't mind sending out small parcels that I can stamp up, just overstamp and stick in there. But when it comes to shifting boxes, it's a lottery if you're going to send it. And I don't know, I'm just reticent to be trudging around with a box and then like taking it back home and then going back again, trying again. Like, you know, life's too precious for that. There's better things to be doing than standing in queues listening to people cough. So I'm really not good at selling perfumes. And the other thing is I love it when I'm in Facebook groups and I can see people really accurately price it. And I'm like, you know, you'd hold it and go, 50 mil, 40 mil, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Some people say there's 47.5 mils left in that.
Yeah.
You're like, how the hell do you know that?
Brand new bottle, spray once. Why have you got it then? You know, it's like, that's the other thing that always cracks me up. It's like, spray once. What? Instant dislike, instant love. You don't even know the perfume. You know, it's how many times have you had a sample that you've worn and thought, I really love this, and then when you spray it, you're like, I really don't like this, because it's, you know, they're having that little bit on skin and just doing that, and then the difference between, you know, this is what I try and say most of the times. I don't feel like I've known a perfume until I've worn it, properly worn it. You know, I've fallen in love with samples in the past, and then got the bottle and thought, oh, it will grow on me, you know, because you suddenly realise this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So it's a bit of a minefield, but yeah, I'm a hoarder. I've given bottles away. We have sort of friends around that they're not frag heads per se. They're not addicts or crazy about it. But, you know, one of them actually, Claire, bought that red cap bottle from you.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's my friend Claire. She's on the cusp. She's on the cusp of falling in. So she always comes around and sniffs this and sniffs that and stuff. And I'm thinking, right, well, you like that one, but so do I. So you can't have that one. But if there's one that, you know, that she'll like, I'm like, oh, you can have that. Yeah. So, I mean, we're you know, I'm not the Question Incence isn't a channel that gets tons and tons of bottles sent to them, but we have started getting a lot more coming in lately. So I'm happy to kind of do my reviews on those and put some nice photos up and then pass them on to a good home. Not for money, but just to share it, because I think perfume is just such a wonderful thing, and the more people that are involved in it, although it's just nice to see people get more pleasure out of it. I think I've noticed since I've started sharing stuff on Facebook instead of just Instagram, it's been quite interesting, because I've got a lot of old friends from school, people I haven't seen for years that didn't really know anything about my perfume. So I'm getting loads and loads of private messages. Oh, could you recommend this, or could you recommend that? Yeah. And this is all from people that I didn't know had a passing interest in perfume. So that's been quite interesting, because I'll quite happily send them a bottle or something and think, oh, you probably like that, you know, especially if it's one that's been sent to me that it hasn't cost me anything. Then, you know, try it, enjoy it. You know, just share the wealth a bit. We're in your perfect perfume, but when, you know, someone is kind enough to send you something for you, you know, for your opinion, and you think, well, this is amazing, let me pass that on, especially if you think this is a really good perfume, but it's not one that I'm actually going to wear. Yeah. You know, oh, let's give it to someone that will. And I think that's quite an important part of it all.
It's enjoyable to share it, isn't it?
And, completely.
Yeah. And I like same as you. I have friends from my normal life that come to me for help and advice. And I literally just the other day connected an old work colleague with a discontinued fragrance that she loves. So the MFK A Pomme Femme.
Oh, has that been discontinued, Fem?
Yeah, it's been discontinued a little while now, and I think I can't remember why, but I posted something about it because I had a sample, and she said, "Oh, I love that one, but it's discontinued. Can you recommend anything else?" At the time, I couldn't think of anything, and then someone came up in one of the groups selling it, so I let her know, and then before you know it, I've connected her. She's got a bottle, and she's really pleased, and yeah, it just feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much. I mean, upon pour on, a part of me that actually stands for. I
Yes.
love it. I absolutely love it. I've got a bottle, and it's in good shape as well. It's probably like 75-80% full, and I wear it very, very sparingly because I just love that scent profile. It's beautiful. That orange blossom, the amber, the sweet woods. It's stunning. And it lasts all day on me as well. It's beautiful. I think if someone was desperate for it, and obviously it's the closest I can recommend would probably be Amouage's Reflection Man. That's
Right.
quite similar. They're very similar scent profiles. They're not quite the same, but they're there or thereabouts. So if I ever do finish, I mean it's a 100 ml bottle, so I'll probably never finish it anyway. But,
No.
if you did ever get twitchy, you could grab that. But oh god, no! Apparently MFK said that it's not gone. It's being redesigned.
Oh, right. Okay.
The hom. So I don't know if that's going to happen with the female one as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I
But
wonder
there's
what.
only three. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but there's only really 3 notes. So I don't know how much more you could redesign it. I mean, what, put them the other way? I don't know. I mean, it seems a bit of a non-brainer, unless it didn't sell well.
Maybe it's the name, which is kind of like you can't really connect to it, can you? You don't really know APOM. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. But yeah, I was going to ask you, Matt, roughly how many fragrances do you think you have?
What, in bottle form?
Yeah, in full bottles. Just rough. No one likes this question.
I don't know, maybe 500.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Yeah.
How long have you been into it, like into it proper?
Seriously into it, maybe 3, maybe about, I'd say seriously 5, maybe 6 years. It started, I used to wear polo green pretty much all the time. And then I got into Amen when it came out in a big way, and that was a big perfume back in the day as well. It was massive. So I wore it, so everybody around me wore it. It was just like literally it stuck to everybody. And then my sister, who lives in Paris, she used to be a dancer at the Moulin Rouge.
Okay.
And when she retired from dancing at the Moulin, she ended up working for Dior. So she not in a technical way, but she works at Dior, had worked at Dior for a long time, and she used to give me a bottle of Sauvage or Eau Sauvage or Eau Sauvage if I was lucky every year. And then one year I got some Bois d'Argent, and I smelt it and I couldn't believe it. And it's like, how can something from a bottle smell this good? And then I was looking, and then that was it really. After that, it was like, oh, there's more perfumes like this out there, and then that's it. Then you're on your way, aren't you?
Yeah, it's quite funny actually. Sarah McCartney's in the chat now, and she's the reason I really fell down the rabbit hole. Because what happened to me, it was about 10 years ago or so, probably a bit longer now, and I was Googling violet. I'd started off thinking I've got quite a good nose because I can tell when someone's farted before anyone else. But no, more than that, I've always been known by my friends as having quite a sensitive nose, and I've always loved perfume, but I never really owned too many perfumes because I only owned what I really loved. I only ever wanted to have 1 or 2 or 3 bottles of perfume, and then I was thinking, what can you do if you've got a good nose? And I just Googled it. And of course, it comes up with be a perfumer. And then I found out that it's quite difficult to just be a perfumer. Yeah. So then I thought I wouldn't mind having a go because I really love violet. And I can't find that many perfumes with violet. So I wouldn't mind having a go at just buying some materials to make my own. And then I googled violet, and I came across Sarah McCartney's website because she'd done a blog about it, about the ionones that you use to make the violet smell. The history of violet, I think, was probably there as well. And then I looked at her website, and you could buy samples, and quite a few of her perfumes had violet. So then, of course, you start Googling and review, and then you find all these reviews, and you discover Fragrantica, and before you know it, this rabbit hole. It wasn't really a rabbit hole. It was more like a landslide, or you know, like an equator. Or it was huge, but it's all down to Sarah that I fell into this so deeply.
I remember sort of early on into questioning sense, I did a review of Angela Flanders', I think it's Amber Noir, Amber Nuit, and I still think this is one of the most unappreciated ambers out there. It's fantastic. I think Angela Flanders, the house as well, is also so under appreciated. The perfumes are stunning, and I did a video, and at the end of it, I sort of said, "Well, I've got to finish the video now because I need to do some housework." And Sarah popped up in the comments and saying, "I'm glad you really appreciate this. I have a bottle and really enjoy it, but I'm more appreciative of the fact that you're actually doing housework." So Sarah's always been quite dear to me after reading that, and it was something. So, the comment just creased me up. It really, really did. It was brilliant. But one of Sarah's perfumes, I think it's called "Be Careful What You Wish For."
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Lots of different types of oud in it.
Hmm.
That's on the list. I don't even know if it's still going, but that's a stunning perfume. And it was the first perfume I came across that had the term white oud in it, and that was kind of at the beginning of my sort of oud journey. So it was oh wow, what's that about? But the perfume itself is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful take on this, you know, this wonderful material. Have you tried it?
I'm not sure if I have tried that one. I've tried most of the line, but I'm not sure if I tried that one because I might have been a bit afraid of the oud, because I used to be very anti-oud.
Anti-oud.
Yeah, so I was really anti-oud. But to be fair, I had mostly only tried the westernized synthetic ouds. And when I actually tried the Bortnikov, because obviously they use real oud, I realised that oud is different to my perception of oud. And whilst I still don't love oud in general, it kind of gives you that. To me, it's like a muck spreading. People say barnyard, but to me, it always reminds me of walking in the country and there's muck spreading going on. But I don't mind that because it smells natural. It does smell natural. Whereas the westernized oud that I used to associate with oud, the synthetic type ouds like Urette, Kaffir, literally made me feel slightly.
Yeah, and also there's this misconception, I think, because lots of those sort of houses, they use the term oud interplaced with the word perfume. So they'll put oud on the bottle when realistically what they should be saying is perfume. You know, it's not an oud, there's no oud in it.
Yeah.
You know, oud's not even walked past the factory where it's being made. You know, there's no connection to it at all. You normally have the sweet woody perfumes with saffron, you know, or a type of an interpretation of saffron, normally with some other bits and bobs in it. But there's you know, there's no oud at all. But that will be sold, and people will think that is an oud, if you know what I mean. And it's not, but it's.
But I mean, there's oud in Sacred Ground. I find nothing offensive whatsoever in there. So yeah, I'm learning. I'd like to learn a bit more about oud, but I don't think I'm ever going to fall in the oud rabbit hole, which is probably a good thing.
It is, especially when you look at the cost of swiping oud. You know, like oud oils. I mean, I've been lucky. I've been sent lots and lots of samples of you know, majorly expensive oud, and you're like, wow, this is fantastic. But for me, it's a difficult one because my wife doesn't like the smell of oud oil. It's not something I could ever wear out. So for me, it's purely about me, which means it's kind of restricted to wearing, in an evening with a glass of wine in front of the television, which is lovely. You know, it is lovely, but I don't know, you're always in that thing, I like it, but for that money, I could buy a bottle of something from Teone. So, you know, where'd you go with it?
If your partner or you know, if someone in your life, someone that you live with doesn't like it, then it is difficult to justify buying it if it's expensive, because you're going to see that person, aren't you? You know, at some point. So it feels slightly selfish, I guess, to wear something.
I mean, I'd say probably 60% of my collection my wife can't stand. So we're already in that world. I don't need to add to it. You know, it's I got sent a friend came around to do some perfume swaps a while back, and it was it's called Galia Reflection by Daxic, and I've forgotten the other name. It's a really strong fecal oud, but it's beautiful. Now, my son was in the kitchen with my wife, and they were mucking around cooking and stuff, and I sprayed it, and my wife questioned my son, have you had an accident? He's like, no, it's Daddy's perfume. And they both came running in to hear. We're like, God, it is as well. Why? What? Get it. So I've still got a bit of that left, and it's like I'm never going to be able to wear it when they're home. In fact, they'll have to go away for the weekend for me to wear, just in case it's lingering in the air. So yeah, there's a good reason why I can't wear a lot of those. I mean, I don't particularly have any in my collection. I've got a couple that are borderline that in that world, but nothing quite as potent as that. But I love that scent profile, so I can't, you know, I'm in a situation where there's perfumes that I can't wear. If I want them at home, I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer. So I think even some of my autos that my wife's not keen on, you know, and these are perfumes that I live in. So it's, I mean, thankfully she likes Berger Musk. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble, because this is my fourth bottle of this one. So
is that your favourite of all time? Would you say?
Yeah, it's my favourite. Bois d'Argent always is special to me, and it will always be. It has been reformulated, so it's not what it was. So I've kind of not fallen out of love with it. I love the scent profile, but I don't like the current version of it as much. So I've got 2 7.5. You know, Dior do those little 7.5 ml bottles. Yeah. I've got 2 of those of the original formulation, which are sacred. So I dab them. And make the most of it. And that's always going to be really special to me. Nascimato's Pardon is another one that, in fact, I would say Nascimato's Pardon would probably be my favourite perfume up until Berger Musk came along. And when my first bottle of Berger Musk, I liked it, but I didn't love it. I didn't understand it. There's a musk in there that reminds me a little bit of the smell of a dog's paws. If you ever smell a dog's pads on their paws, every dog always, the paws or the pads always smell the same, and there's a tiny hint of that in the musk in the perfume. So when I first wore it, I thought, this smells nice, but I'm not quite sure about it. But it's very strong. It lasts all day, and kept getting compliments from it. So I wore it to work and kept getting compliments for it, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't understand what the hype was about. But by the time I was sort of halfway through my bottle of it, without fully understanding it, was like, I need another bottle of this. And then it just, it's a perfume I absolutely love. It's very, very modern in terms of how it's made and the materials in the perfume, but it has a kind of a vintage smell to it, especially in the opening. You know, it's like this really waxy, heavy bergamot with some orange blossom, little lavender, and a real sort of classic smelling musk. And then it develops and becomes very, very different. But it's just absolutely outstanding. I love it. It's fantastic. I see someone there's talking about Oud Infinity. That's a fantastic fragrance, which I love. Wife wasn't too keen on that one either. That's beautiful. I mean, Oud Infinity is stunning. Have you tried it?
No, I'm completely afraid of it.
Oh, it's not an oud. It is an oud fragrance, obviously, but it's not the oud that's the problem with it. It's the civet. There's tons and tons and tons of civet. So you have, I don't know. It's a really clever perfume because the rose is gorgeous, but you have a very natural oud with a ton of civet, and it's not an oud bomb. It's a civet bomb, and I think it's the civet that scares people.
I'm not
because it is incredibly animalic.
I can handle civet in a very small doses. But if it's supposed to be a bit noticeable, nah, I'm out.
No, it's a civet bomb. It's all civet in some respects. It's really, really potent. What's that? Pisania.
Prisara.
That's it.
Dusita.
Amjavani. Is that? Am I thinking it's Dusita?
You got Dusita. And the lady's name is Prisara. Pisara.
Yeah,
Pisara.
that's it.
Yeah.
She's made an incredible perfume with that, but it's a little too hot to handle. I think it's another one that I could never wear. I love it, but I'd never be able to wear it. It's just too much. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah. So, what would you say are your favourite notes? If you were
favourite notes?
Yeah.
I like sandalwood a lot. I think it's just a gorgeous material. I love it. Obviously, I like oud. Maybe I'm kind of not past the oud phase, but I still love it. I think my favourite notes. I like woodsy perfumes. So anything with lots of woods, or anything completely out there.
Right. Yeah.
You know, not necessarily. You know, if you look at my favourite perfumes in the collections, there's very, very little correlation to them. They don't seem to share very much. I like musk. Musk is probably, the one common denominator with all my favourite perfumes is there's a lot of musk in them. So that would have to be, by definition, you know, my favourite note. Whether it's subconsciously or I'm consciously drawn to it, but musk is certainly my favourite. Yeah. So woodsy musks.
Yeah. How do you feel about real animalics in perfume? So when say Bortnikov used deer musk, what do you think of that? Do you like the note, and what do you think of the
I'll be honest with you, I like musk, obviously, but if it can be made synthetic, which I would say pretty much all the musks in my collection are, I'm happy with that. You don't need to kill an animal for it.
No.
You know, some people will argue, will think whatever, but I don't know really. The idea, I'm sure the carcass is used for something else and the meat's eaten and all the rest of it, and I totally get that. It just doesn't sit well with me, to be honest. No. I'm sorry, it's not for me.
There's enough materials out there, isn't there? Really?
Yeah.
It's just not necessary. And from my personal, and even just from the smell of it, I don't really enjoy the real animal musks. I like the clean synthetic musks. That's my preference anyway. But I know it harks back to yesteryear, and for some people there might be some nostalgic reason why they enjoy those sort of animal musks. But for me, I think in this day and age, I'd rather it just didn't happen, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't justify it, to be honest. Yeah. It's not for me. And as you know, the whole kind of sort of chat about the synthetics, they're there, aren't they? They're there for a reason.
Yeah, that's another good, real plus point, I think, for synthetics, is that you can get those animalic notes and it not harm an animal, which is fantastic. It's
got to be the way forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure I could hear thousands of perfumers screaming, but you know.
I would imagine that the majority will be on the same side of the fence as us, and there'll just be a few diehards. Just like you get people that like to hunt and kill animals for fun, but we definitely shouldn't go there.
No.
Let's not go there. But yeah, so what else was I going to ask you? I can't. No, that was mainly. I was really interested in how your journey had begun and how you collect. So you're not really looking to add so much as if you fall in love, then you want to add it.
I'm looking to. I don't know if you're aware that Gaultieri's first collection was called Maria Lux,
right?
Which Liberties used to have, and they actually, I didn't notice, but they sold them off really cheap. So when I found out about it, they'd all gone. So I've now, I think there's 4 that I want, and it's just the evolution of Alessandro Gaultieri's work, basically. So this is his first collection. I think he worked for Fendi before that, and had a hand in stuff, but nothing was really accredited to him. But this is with his then wife as well. So they made this collection, Maria Lux, and I would like to add those. So I've got the Maria Lux, the Massamato, the Autoparese, and then whatever happens next. So yeah, massive fanboy, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hunting for those at the moment. There's a few on eBay that I'm kind of sniping, but oh, and he did another one as well for a arts venue in Amsterdam, which Edward, who's on Instagram, whose name evades me at the moment, someone will probably know him, did a little video and a write-up on it. Apparently it's very similar to Black Afghana, so I would like to get that, but that's just the collector in me, that's the obsessive.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm pretty sorted at the moment. I'm not really yearning for anything. Maybe, obviously, everything Tierney's made, maybe that might have to happen, but you know, over time, I like a long-term project now. I'm not, you know, I don't know if you were the same, but when, you know, you first started collecting, you were kind of like anything that looked like a bargain. You were like, I'm having that. That's, you know, especially in groups. And you think, oh, yeah, wow, yeah. Oh, it's all right. You know, and, you know, you end up with lots of bottles that you quite like, but you're not that fussed about. Those days have gone now. I need to be really obsessed with something before I'm looking to add it.
That's where I'm at. It's my journey. Very much at the beginning wanted to try everything, didn't know anything about gourmands. When I found out about gourmands, I wanted everything. I learned that actually I don't love all gourmands just because they're sweet. I now know what I need from a gourmand, and I remember getting obsessed with incense because I'd never experienced incense in perfumes. Then I learned I don't need a really incensey perfume, but I enjoy an incense note within a composition.
Yeah.
I think for most of us, it's a learning journey, and it's learning about what we like and how we like the composition to be. So you might like a certain note, but you don't necessarily need it to be the dominant note. You quite like it teamed up with certain things. But yeah, I used to buy a lot of decants. Actually, I went through a good few years of buying loads of decants because they had notes that I loved the sound of, and then I just realized for some reason they didn't work for me. So now I'm very fussy.
That's a good a safe way of doing it. Decants are really good. I bought quite a few, but then I always got a bit nervous when I was getting through it, and I was like, well, I need a bottle now, because sometimes I think just being a bit fussy. 10 mil, 5 mil I didn't think was enough. 10 mil you kind of know by the end. If you don't know by the end of 10 mil, then you might as well give up. But you know, I got the most recent decant was a 10 mil I got was actually a Mancera, and it was a wild python, which is their tuberose. And it's typical Mancera. I've got nothing against the house. I own quite a few, so you know what it's going to smell like. You know how it's going to behave, but there's something quite addictive about it, and it's also one that my wife really enjoys as well. So that would probably be one that I'm not that fussed about, but if one comes up at a good price or a partial, then I'll pounce on that. And that was off the back of a decant. I've got lots of decants that I've not finished because I'm just thinking I've got more interesting perfumes to me in my collection, so why am I persevering with it? Yeah. You know, so you get halfway through it and think, and then it just goes in the you know, that drawer that's like the equivalent of the Thunderdome. God knows what's coming. We've got decants fighting for their lives in there.
I just think, I don't know, life's too short to wear a perfume that you don't really love. And as reviewers, we kind of feel that we have to, you know, or I used to. I've changed a little bit now, and I'm not so focused on reviewing. For me, my channel is more about my journey, so I'll just talk about what I've found and what I'm excited about. But I used to feel this pressure to really test things properly and talk about them regardless of how excited I was about them. And now I'm not so much, but I think life's too short to be wearing something that you're not really loving, because you don't know how many days you've got left, you know, like, and you've got so many beautiful perfumes that, you know, I mean, you have a crazy collection of 500 perfumes. You want to wear the ones that you love, don't you? Not spend time trying to understand and trying to break down something that's not really exciting you too much. So,
especially when you really, really know the perfumes in your collection, when you're thinking this is going to be a really hot day today, and then instantly I know I've got, of all of them, I've got 5 that are going to be fantastic. So I'm not even going to go near ones that I think possibly could be. because how many good days do we get? Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
so I know this works really, really well in heat. This works fantastically well in heat. This is amazing in heat. So they're the ones I'm going for. You know, I'm not looking at the others. And, you know, it's an interesting situation to be in, because, you know, you, by definition, they're your perfumes, you know, the perfumes that you've had for a while, so you know how you're going to feel, which is what this is all about. It's how you feel when you're wearing them.
Yeah.
And when you know and appreciate your perfume, I'm definitely going for this one today. I'm definitely going for that one today. And then you have a new arrival, and you're like, well, I'm not sure about you yet. So you can sit on the sidelines. It's like a sub waiting to get called on. It's like, come on, Ed, here's your chance. And then it comes and it performs admirably, or it performs terribly. And you're like, well, maybe you'll be working better in the winter. Back to the back of the cupboard it goes, never to be seen again, which happens to me quite a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you get any sort of stress feeling about having so much? And so for me, I haven't counted recently. I've just had a big declutter, and because I do sell perfumes. I've had a big declutter. I'd say I probably still have somewhere around 100 to 130 perfumes, and I feel this this sadness around not being able to give everything the attention it deserves, the skin time it deserves. I feel some sort of feeling that's not great about having so much. Do you get that at all?
Yeah, there's also a sense of almost gluttony that's kind of a bit emotionally weird. But I've kind of got this idea that, and I'm finding now more, especially since I've been sharing on Facebook, that there's a lot of people that like perfume that I didn't like, and I maybe like to start up some kind of local perfume group, or, you know, I live in a busy area, and just to get, because there's bound to be, you know, there's lots of chimney pots where I live, so there's bound to be lots of people that would be interested in perfume, and maybe set up some kind of like meet up once a month in a local pub or whatever.
There is that London meet perfume lovers, London meetup, London perfume lovers. It's not on Facebook. I think Sarah is involved in it actually, but there is a London group. I don't know how active they are at the moment, because obviously,
So I'd like to maybe do something like that, and just sort of share the wealth, because I went through a phase where I got really excited. I bought a couple of I think it was Swiss Arabian Shag Oud, and then Swiss Arabian Shag Oud Aswad, which are fantastic, really low cost perfumes. Love them to death. And I thought, well, there's got to be more gold out there, isn't there? So I ended up with loads and loads and loads of them. And a lot of them are not that good, not that interesting to me. But, you know, for every 5 or 6 I bought, and we're not talking any money here at all, we're talking very low cost perfumes, you get one that was really good, really fantastic. And, you know, and the really fantastic ones have gone to my wearing shelf. And I've got these boxes and boxes and boxes of other ones that I should really revisit or give away, because, you know, the financial outlay was nothing realistically. And again, sort of other perfumes that have come to me by, you know, various other sources, they should be rehomed, you know, and they're not, they didn't cost enough to sell, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like, what do you do with them?
Yeah.
You know, I feel embarrassed to put them up for sale, and then I can't sort of say, oh, you're into perfume? Here's 100. You know, it seems. You know, it seems like a weird way to do it, but, you know, that's kind of what's going to have to happen, I think. Because, you know, I look around and there's like, oh yeah, there's boxes there, there's some boxes there. And my mum, bizarrely, you know, she's been my mum a very long time. I've only just recently discovered she's really into perfume. You know, it wasn't really noticeable when I was a kid. I think since we've not lived together. And she gave me this massive box of miniatures that I've not even been through yet. There's like literally hundreds of these tiny little miniatures from all ages. So I need to sift through that. I know, yes.
Vintage gems, yeah.
And she's been sitting on them for ages. So she said, oh, I love perfume, Matthew. So I was like, okay, great. Well, there's a box going to come down that way. So that will get rid of a few. And she'll really appreciate them as well. So... yeah, I don't know. There is sort of a gluttonous feel about having too many perfumes.
Yeah, I feel that, and I feel like there's this weird this constant desire to keep on trying things, and
Yeah.
do you get like sidetracked by something, you learn about it in a moment, and then you start reading reviews, and you know, and before you know it, you're just obsessing about something.
Yeah,
and,
all
and
the time.
you can really obsess about it until you finally sample it. You can smell it once and then dismiss it.
Or even worse than that, you find something, you start researching it, and then someone will put a comment in on that perfume that you're researching, and you think, oh, that sounds good. And before you know it, you've finished researching the perfume that you're researching. You've kind of linked to linked and to linked. And what started out as a research into a perfume that you were genuinely interested in, here you are 4 perfumes down the chain within an hour, researching something completely different to where you started, thinking, oh, that sounds nice. And you know, that's how it happens, isn't it? Especially if you're, you know, if you're a bit tired, and you're like, oh. And the worst thing is, if you're drunk, by the end of it, you bought it.
It is. It's very obsessive, and I liken it to how we can be greedy with food and taste and things, like whether it be chocolate or crisps or whatever you're into. How it's a similar feeling, because it sparks different feelings within you, and it is a sensation, isn't it? It's you're using a sense to smell, and there is this weird obsession, I think, that we all have with perfume.
Oh, it's definitely an obsession. It's you know, I mean, I've got a history of collecting and stuff like that, but I can't tend to move on from one to the other. This has been by far the longest and most involved obsession, as my wife likes to put it. But I mean, the good thing is I do get to share it. So there's lots of, you know, my wife's always had a love of perfume, but she's always been quite into ones. So she's like aromatics, or you know, she likes about 3 or 4 different perfumes on the go. But now she's got this like chest to delve into, which is nice. And it's interesting because I mean, pre-pandemic, it's not so much now, but she'll be out and she'll like get a message. What's that one I'm wearing again? So, oh, that's this one. Is that one or whatever. So it's nice to have a hobby that's shared. You know, that hasn't really happened before. So that's good. I mean, we've been together a very long time. So the perfume obsession, as it's, you know, grown or geared up more, you know, it's nice to have something in common. I mean, my wife's not interested in sort of finding them, because now once you nail or know the notes that they like, or the kind of perfumes that I'm better at blind buying for my wife than I am for me.
Really? Yeah.
Because it's like, right, it's tuberose in it, it's jasmine in it, it's sweet, or and you look at it and think, yep, she'll like that, and then there you go, and oh yeah, that's lovely, you know. And it's like, because, you know, there's lots of notes that my wife doesn't like, so I know that if that appears in any of them, it's not going to be for her.
Yeah.
But if the notes that she likes are there, and there's none of the, you know, civets in it, no. If there's anything element, no. You know, you can narrow it down. It's quite an easy formula to follow. So that's good. I mean, it's always nice to, you know, now we can have people around and stuff. People come around and they love going through my collection and smelling stuff and you know, chatting about perfume and stuff, which is nice as well, without having to, you know, when you're talking perfume to people that aren't obsessed with it, it's also quite interesting because their angle and their take on it is completely different. You know, they're more about how it smells, bizarrely. You know, it should always be about how it smells, but there's so many other variables within perfume that when you're obsessed with perfume become quite important, as well as just the smell. You know, so oh, that smells nice. That's interesting. I haven't asked how long it lasts. You know, all this kind of like.
How does it change?
Yeah, there's oh, that smells lovely. I love it. But that's just the top notes. You know?
Yeah, I think what I love about perfume is that even people that wouldn't consider themselves interested or, you know, that bothered, generally are when they actually smell something, because it evoke things, you know, whether it's memories, and it, you know, whatever it does something to everyone regardless. And you know, I could have anyone round and probably still engage them a little bit in talking about fragrances and smelling a few things, because for most people there's there's always something, you know, there's always something to talk about. And even if if they're not that generally they wouldn't say they're interested, they probably are, you know, because they're still going to have memories of what their parents wore, or grandparents, or, you know, general scent memories. And I think most people, it's a sense, you know, it's visual, hearing, it's a sense, and it gets stimulated. And
it definitely does. I mean, I've got one perfume in my collection that it will always be in my collection. I'm terrified it's going to be formulated, because as soon as I smelt it, there was I know this smell, and it took me a little while to zero in on it. And it's actually Beaufort London's Iron Duke. And when I was little, we lived in a really small 16th century cottage in Hertfordshire. My dad would get up before everybody else, and he would go off to work. My mum was a teacher, I was at school, whatever. But he would go and have a bath in the morning. We didn't have a shower. It's this really, really old cottage type thing. And he would smoke cigarettes and spend an hour in the morning sorting himself out before he'd go to work. And I would go into the bathroom after. So there's this smoke of shaving foam, cigarettes, and steam from the bathroom. And there's saddle soap in Beaufort's Iron Duke. And I think it's linoleum, something along those lines. It's a component of saddle soap that's quite prominent within the perfume. Right. So you have this smokiness that's, you know, they've got gunpowder and all sorts of accords in the perfume, but it combines with this shaving foam note. And instantly, it just transported me to being like 6 or 7 or 8, going into the bathroom after my dad. And it was such a strong association. I had to sit down for a minute. It's like, what? So that, you know, whenever I'm feeling a bit low or a bit anxious or whatever, I can have a spray of that. And, you know, I lost my dad a few years back. So it's like, it's almost like he's there again. Yeah. And that's something that nothing else has ever been able to do. You know, I've been able to play music that my dad likes or whatever, and that's all very nice and good. But nothing has quite got that potent attachment. Yeah. And I think there's part of me that's thinking there's got to be that perfume out there for everybody. I've found mine. Yeah. You know, so isn't it lovely to try and sort of help somebody find somebody, you know, something else that powerful? Because I wasn't expecting it, I wasn't looking for it, and then when it happened, it was like, wow, this is absolutely devastatingly amazing. Yeah. So, you know, this is another thing that can happen with perfume. And if you could somehow be responsible for helping someone find that, or even better, if you were the perfumer that made it, I mean, that must be the most awesome thing.
Yeah, definitely. So apparently there's a science behind it, isn't there? It's to do with the limbic system. I don't know too much about it, but the olfactive senses are linked to your memory more so than anything else. So
well, that doesn't surprise me.
It's to do with this limbic system. So that's why a perfume or a fragrance or a scent in nature, whatever, will link to a memory faster, stronger, quicker than a visual or anything else. It's the quickest way to a memory. It's quite fascinating, really. I'm sure there's probably amazing research out there. I don't know too much about it, but I just know that that's why scent memory is such a huge thing.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure the science behind it is equally as fascinating to study as well. But when you're kind of on the receiving end of it, I mean, have you had anything like that?
I'm just trying to think, actually. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any real. I guess I have had some unpleasant ones, which I won't go into.
Yeah, I mean that's the
yeah. There's a positive and there's a negative. There is something about cigarette smoke in fragrances that really bothers me. And yeah, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but I love how it just attacks your senses, doesn't it? And
it really does. Yeah, it's quite dramatic as well. It's a really potent sort of wow. Wasn't expecting that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I'm getting a bit tired.
Yeah, me too.
So we've been going for about 2 hours. So I reckon, and I need a wee too. Like, we need a wee.
Well, listen, Claire, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. If there's anything that you want to try, if I can hook you into the world of Tierney, then please let me know. and we can make that happen.
Yeah, I'll definitely give some a go. The more accessible ones, I think I'd love to try. Thank you. And yeah, we'll sort out some swapping and
Definitely.
maybe we can do this again in a few months' time.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, Claire, and thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you everyone so much. Sorry that I've not been able to address you all directly, but obviously it's, you know, when we're chatting, it's not so easy. But thank you so much for joining in the live chat. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you're not already subscribed to Matt's channel, it's called Question Incence, and go and have a look at his channel. It's brilliant. And that's it. Bye.
Thank you very much, all. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.